Hey, Chris Lipe here. Welcome to my channel, helping you overcome obstacles so you can make great music. And in this video, we're going to talk about the smartphone mic. Can it be used in real recordings? We know it can be used to capture an idea on the go, but how good is the mic? We're going to do a little experiment. I'm going to record a very small melody with this mic. This is a Mojave Audio into an Avalon 737. This is pretty cool sounding setup. But I'm going to hold my smartphone out here and I'm going to record the same thing at the same time. And then we're going to listen to what came off the smartphone and then compare it with this and tweak the smartphone mic a little bit and see if we can get it to sound usable. See if we can get it to sound good. I think we can do it. So why do this exercise? There's no way we're going to be able to get the smartphone to sound as good as the recording studio mic, but it's an important ear training exercise to help us discover things about two different sounds, two different mics recorded using the same program. So my voice is going to be the same take, and we're using it with the same track. We can use our ears and EQ and compression and practice sound matching manually. What is it about this mic that we like? How can we put some of that into this mic using EQ and compression? Gets us to turn some knobs, gets us to think critically. What about EQ? Are we hearing tubbiness? Are we hearing warmth or brightness or too bright or too many lows? What are we hearing? And how can we take one example that we know is pretty good and make this as close as possible using just our ears and basic tools in a DAW? This type of mindset and this type of tweaking goes a long way in all of mixing and in all of recording, because we're constantly comparing what we record to sounds that we hear in other recordings. So have fun, do this for yourself if you can, and let's get started. So here's the little small snippet of a track we're going to sing over. And I'm just going to use voice recorder or voice memos on my iPhone. And of course, there are other apps and other phones, but this is simple and what I have. So I'm just going to hold it out here. I'm going to do a test recording real quick. I like how it has the waveform on it. You can kind of see what's going on. La, la, la. Make sure my levels are good. I'm going to have to hold it a little farther away probably so I don't overload it. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. Okay. I think we're good. Let's record a melody. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. Let's import this and see what happens. I'm also going to take the headphones off so I can listen out of my monitors. I trust them a little bit more than the headphones. So we're going to go ahead and just load basic compressor here on the Mojave. Go to classic VCA, and then we're going to load basic EQ. And listening. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. I'm going to compress it a little bit more. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. Put a low or a high pass filter on it. Like that, and I think it's bright enough. I think that one's good. I'm gonna level it down. It's a little loud in the mix. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh, and then maybe I'll add a little bit of reverb. When you were young. When you were young, you loved to play in... We'll just add it directly to the track because we don't care about adding multiple things to it. So we'll just do this. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh, when you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Okay, so we have this one sounding pretty good. Now let's bring this one in. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. So the first thing I really notice is that it's picking up the room a lot more, which this condenser mic would pick up quite a bit of the room because it's sensitive, but the smartphone, because of the dynamic range compression that it has built into the mic and the way it's used, it does even more of that, which makes it versatile, but you have to compensate for that a little bit. It got a little bit more room noise. I think we can still mess with it. I think we can still deal with it. When you were young. It still has that nice high sheen on it. I think that's really neat. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. It's boxier sounding. So we're going to copy over the settings. From our other mic. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. And that boxy sound, I'm going to try to isolate that boxy sound that's caused a little bit by the room. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. When you were young, it's right around there, right around 500. I'm going to narrow this a bit. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. When you were young, you... I'm also going to bring up, I'm going to do a high shelf here. Bring this up a little. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. There's a higher boxiness, like almost a telephone sound. Hey, imagine that. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. Okay, we have the same reverb on there. They don't necessarily, the mics don't need to necessarily sound the same. They're not going to. Let's go and listen to the compressor, see what that's doing. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Ooh, it's bringing out some nice definition. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. And adding this high shelf helped quite a bit, helped bring out some definition. And in combination with dropping these frequencies, let's bypass this. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. We've gotten rid of some of that room sound. I'm going to work on that a little bit more here. Narrow this. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh, when you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh, when you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. Okay, I think we've done some good things. Let's A/B them. Here is the smartphone in the mix. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. And the other one. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. When you were young. Still sounds a lot tubbier, doesn't it? So what I'm going to do, I did some wide or some narrow cuts here to shape the sound and get rid of some of that room sound, and a boost on the low, and I think I'm going to take the boost out here. I'm going to load another EQ, and I'm going to do a wider shape, post-reverb. We're going to shape the whole thing. Is this weird? Not really. A lot of people use multiple EQs, so we're going to do a wide. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Right here at around 800. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. A little bit lower. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. A/B. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. When you were young. When you were young, you loved to play in the sand. Oh. So does the smartphone mic sound as good as the recording mic setup? No, it doesn't, but we were able to make it pretty workable by tweaking. And the exercise of tweaking a mic that is less and maybe not even designed for this application, and comparing it with something nicer is really good for your ear when you're trying to dial in sounds in your own recording studio. I hope you enjoyed seeing this process. If you want to take recording deeper in general, be sure to join my free recording course listed below. Talk to you later.